Okay, I think we are live. I'll just put a hello in the chat.
I don't see it live yet. Okay, it's coming live now.
It's coming, right? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream. I hope we are live. I will just check on my YouTube as well, so that's something.
Yeah, I can see Haldra, Sevi, Ali Amin, Safoni,
Awesome.
Ariman, Tej.
This is good. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, some places good night. So it's Friday, and we'll be learning today about Kubernetes certifications, all three of them, and we'll try to cover as much as we can in 1 hour or 1 hour 10-15 minutes, however it goes. So today's let's learn about Kubernetes certifications, CKA, CKAD, CKS, all those. And there's a swag. So I would like to thank Learn Gates. So they are giving away a course bundle to one lucky winner. So you can see the course bundle. You can see the Google Forms link. Make sure you submit the entry over there, because that is the only way you will be entering in the draw to win that particular course bundle. And these are the repositories that you just saw from Walid. So they are on CKA and CKS, widely popular. And make sure you have bookmark them, start them, and yes, keep contributing to it as well, so that it's up to date, the latest. Although we all in the community have been trying to make it up to date, especially Walid is there. And then yes, YouTube channel is there, so self promotion has to be there. So make sure you subscribe that. We are very close to hitting the 1K mark, and all your help will be appreciated. So it's good to see you all again in the stream, and I'll make sure we keep things energized, and there will be hands-on. There will be a lot of discussions going on today. Keep on asking the questions, keep them coming. We have few of the moderators in the chat who
I
will
see
be
Dan
helping.
already.
Oh, hi Dan. So let's get started now, and I will share my other window. And yes, I will share the form link as well in the chat, so that it doesn't get missed, and everyone has to submit their responses. Okay, so I will submit it to YouTube now. Here is the link. Please make sure you submit your entry. And we will now share what we have for today. So we'll start, try to keep it interactive. Few of the tips, tricks, and few of the resources, not few. We'll, Walid and myself have a lot of resources for you, so that you can kickstart your journey in any of the certifications, go through a learning path, kind of using the GitHub repositories. So a lot of things are there. So I don't want to waste any time, because it's 3 certifications, and per certification course length, if you see, in general is more than 10 hours, so you can't cover all 3 in 1 hour. So we'll try to maximize on how you can start preparing, and which resource will be actually very efficient in your preparation journey, and what you can expect out of it. So Walid, a quick introduction of yourself first before we start.
My name is Walid. I work for an energy company in the Middle East. Active in the local community when it comes to Kubernetes Arabic, Kate's Arabic group, and AWS community lead. I love open source, and I like what I'm seeing on the attendance. I see Sevi, I see Dan, Pop, I see Khalid, I see Emmanuel. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Sayam, for accepting me in your stream.
Thank you for coming. It's an honor to have you. It's a pleasure to have you. It's great. I mean, you have been doing some amazing things in the community, and I welcome you, to the stream. So let's get started. And so KH certifications. So there is a big buzz in the industry if you see about the Kubernetes first. Yes, it's kind of a default orchestration engine nowadays for all kinds of organizations, small scale, middle scale, large scale. And when it comes to Kubernetes and when it comes to its certifications, they are one of its kind because they are not like the traditional certifications that you go through, like the MCQ ones. I'm not saying any certification is good or bad. I'm just saying that Kubernetes certifications have their own stand because they are heavily hands-on focused, and that's why people love them, and that's why people want to prepare for them, because when you are preparing, in your preparing journey itself, you learn so many things that will be helpful in your work. And when you give the actual exam and when you go through that, all the hands-on thing, it gives you immense knowledge, and you get to work on a lot of different scenarios when you prepare and give the exam for all the certifications. CKS is not yet open for all. Only few of the beta testers have given that. But CKA CKAD has been, at number one in people's mind when they enter into the Kubernetes world. So yes, so that's where it stands, and it adds, definitely any certification adds credibility. So CKA, CKAD, both the Kubernetes certifications add credibility to your profile. When you say that you are CKA, CKAD certified, a person know that you have spent quite a number of hours in learning and quite a number of hours in practicing. All the core stuff, all the troubleshooting, logging, all that thing, that you have done it with your own hands. You have practiced well. You have learned the kubectl, mastered all the commands. So all this is, I mean, in person mind. So it definitely helps you in your career perspective as well. That's a huge plus. And for your knowledge validation, if you are already working from years in Kubernetes, then also it's a very good certification. So you can validate all your knowledge that you have been working on over the years. So as of now, as of today, there are 3 certs, out of which one will soon be released for public. So CKA, which is Certified Kubernetes Administrator, CKAD, which is Certified Kubernetes Application Developer, and then you have Certified Kubernetes Security Specialist. Now, this particular slide, or sketch, whatever you want to call it. So this tells you on a very broader level what are the percentages of each of the sections that are expected in the exam. Though if you go through the curriculum and if you expand each of the section, you will be seeing all the further exploration, deep dive that we'll be also showing you. And but overall, this is what it looks like. That's why I wanted to keep all 3 in one place so that we can know where and all things are same, where and all you are only have to focus on in CKS certification. Maybe like the pod security policy, they are heavily focused in CKS and will not come in CKD. So all these things will be clear from this. So CKA, yeah, go ahead, Vali.
May I? So basically, as Sayam said, these are really well-honored certificate in the industry. Red Hat has like for OpenShift certificates, but it's not vendor agnostic. This is one important thing about CKA, CKAD, and CKS. They are really vendor agnostic. This is Linux Foundation, this is CNCF. And now if you are a developer and you are trying to prepare for CKAD and you are forgetting CKA or CKS, I think you need to revisit your strategy. I think, in my opinion, the best strategy is to focus on learning Kubernetes and enhancing your Kubernetes knowledge, and maybe focusing at different milestones at different times. But there is a big overlap between CKA and CKAD and CKS. So maybe one of the strategies that the practitioner has to take is that he sets his milestones from the beginning. Where should I start, and where should I focus, and what is my end goal? And one of the things about CKAD, it's not really certified developer. It's like certified user, heavy user. This is basically how we use Kubernetes in every day. It's not how we develop operators. It's not how we develop application. It's basically how we use applications in Kubernetes, or how we architect maybe applications in Kubernetes, but low-level architecture, not high-level architecture, or high-level architecture, not low-level architecture. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's the perfect definition of how it is, because sometimes you get confused on CKAD, especially that it's developer, so it will be developer focused. So when I used to work with the teams, and there people were developing, and they were developing apps basically, and they were thinking, okay, we'll do CKAD, it's more developer focused and you don't need to know much of the Kubernetes. But actually that is not the case. It's actually a day-to-day Kubernetes user, so you have to be a heavy user. So all those kubectl commands, you again have to master that for CKAD as well. And like Walid said, it's not that we will be given a scenario to create operator or all that stuff that you do on Kubernetes. So the it's well defined in what it covers. And I'll come to this slide. Just I want to cover another short thing over here. So all the exams are 2 hours, and they are 15 to I think 18 questions, not specific 17, but somewhere I have read that they are specifically 17 because the syllabus got recently changed. Maybe Walid, you can add more in how many number of questions are there for
Yeah,
each of the exams.
in the exam handbook, it says between 15 and 20. But
Right.
all examiners so far, as you said, are 17 questions. Of course, we don't know the CKS yet, because the handbook for the CKS doesn't give the passing score and doesn't give the number of questions yet. But
Right.
it says 2 hours.
Right. And all these certifications are based on Kubernetes version 1.19, so which is very important. And there are few things which actually have changed in 1.19. So there are additional tips and tricks that you have to follow for that we'll be discussing. And all the certifications are 3 years validity. They are online, proctored kind of exam, so you can give it at your home location as well. So 66% for CKA CKAD. CKA is not yet defined. And yes, questions are 15-20, and each of them is $300, but do check out their discounts. So on different occasions, different discounts will be there. And
Yeah.
kubernetes.io, all the domains are valid, but discuss.kubernetes.io is not like you cannot open this particular website. So with the exam, you can open one tab which can be kubernetes.io/any domain like blogs or whatever docs, but you cannot open discuss.kubernetes.io.
You can open kubernetes.io/docs or kubernetes.io/blog, or you can open github/Kubernetes. And github/Kubernetes is very rich and is very massive. So if you haven't visited it before, you will get lost during the exam. You have really to get familiar with these before the exam. Regarding the discount, Linux Foundation, they do discounts from 20% up to 50%. Last KubeCon, it was 50% discount. So the coming KubeCon on 17th of November, most likely they will do the same. And
Yes.
they do discounts on special occasions like Black Friday, Thanksgiving, all the special occasions, they usually do discounts. So
Yes. So they do discounts very heavily on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, especially. So they have a whole bundle that you can take. I actually bought on one of the Cyber Monday sales. It was very cheap for that. And you can also, it's 3 years validity, so it's good. And you get a free retake. So that is also very important. So, if by chance you fail, because keeping in mind the difficulty level of the exam, so they have this free retake policy, which I think a lot of people have used, and they have cleared in the second attempt, which is not a problem, because you are new, and sometimes the time management doesn't happen in the way that you have planned in your mind if you have not practiced in a certain way that we'll be walking you through today. So that things happen. And these are some of the things that are there, and then we'll go back up to the syllabus, and then some of the resources, and then some of the repositories that Walid have. We'll go through all these. So, but very basics, you should know how to create pod deployment service. I have written deployment 2 times. So, config map, secret, then how to schedule a pod on a specific node selector, the RBAC, very powerful, and the etcd, backup, restore, kubeadm install, upgrade, and then ingress, node affinity, persistent volume, claim, host path, all these things. For CKS, additional, so these are actually the basics. So when you talk about like, I want to know Kubernetes, I want to learn Kubernetes, I want to know the basics. So prior to that, yes, some Linux knowledge, some containerization concepts knowledge is also required. So it's not that you can directly jump into Kubernetes without even knowing anything about Linux and containerization, or most popular container engine, which is Docker. So all these concepts should be there, and you should know the basics, not the deep dives, I would say, but at least the basics of all the Linux command, basics of containerization, what it is, and then you can dive it into the Kubernetes world. And there, if you call all three certifications, yes, pod deployment, service, ingress, all these, the basic Kubernetes objects should be very clear, like how they work. The basic architecture should be clear, how it works, how the end to end, when you create a pod, and what happens till the time your application is running. So all that from the API server, it goes, and then the scheduler kicks in, schedules on the node, and then the kubelet it takes from the API server, and it goes and fetches the image and then runs the pod. So all these things should be very clear in your mind for any of the certificates. So these are the basics. Then CK, and then there are certain differentiators that are there in each of the certification. Especially in the CKS certification, there are very heavily on the security perspective. One more important point, for giving CKS, you have to have a CKA certification. So you can't give CKS without having CKA. So you should be heavily knowing the CIS benchmark, the pod security policies, open policy agent, and some of the tools which are there, like Falco, then Sysdig Inspect, Trivi, Kubebench, and all these tools are very important, because Walid will be talking more on the type of questions on the toolings. But I think I have read somewhere that Trivi and Kubebench are already installed in the CKS exam, but I'm really not sure. So these are some of the things that I had. So Walid, you want to add something on this perspective?
So yes, basically, it's about exploration. CKA as an administrator, imagine that you are starting your first day job, managing a cluster that has not been created by you, and you have the first time that you are there. How can you find out what are the nodes, what are the bots, what are the deployments? So learn how to be curious, basically how to find what are the bots, what are the namespaces, and how to find problems, like which bot is failing, which bot is crashing. And if you are into books, Kubernetes Up and Running book has a very heavy chapter on bots. The core concept for CKA is the bot. The core concept for CKA, CKAD, and CKS is actually the bot. The bot is the core concept in all of them. So, and there is, as I said, there is an overlap. So if you study the bot, try to find all the specs about the bot that basically applies to security, applies to multi-containers. Like when you see, like for example, in CKD, you have multi-containers. So what are the multi-containers? It could be the init container, it could be the sidecar. And don't overthink it. Relax, don't panic, enjoy it, it's fun. You have you have one retake. So don't really worry about the exam. Enjoy it. And the first thing, I think, so I did 3 exams. I did CKA when it was beta, and I did the CKA just recently, and I did the CKAD last year. And I think the strategy of Linux Foundation and CNCF is like they want to test that you have the breadth more than the depth. So do you know what are the bots, what are the services, what are the configuration, the config maps, what are the difference between config map and secrets, and how can you configure a multi-container bot? And for example, if I talk about multi-container bot, you don't need to enable an alpha feature or beta. Beta features are there, but you don't need to go overthink it and start enabling the alpha features and stuff like this. Maybe on the CKS, you need to disable beta and alpha features, or maybe you need to disable an ABI. But on the CKA and CKAD, most likely, it's the general availability and beta features, beta ABIs.
Yeah, that is correct. So Walid, why not show something? So I have some of the scripts or some of the kubectl commands
Yes.
that actually we can show so that the people might know some flavor, like how to create pods or all these things very quickly, and how it happens. So I
Okay.
quickly share the other. I think I am sharing, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I'm already sharing.
Yes. Okay.
I will
CKA
use.
CKAD. Yes.
Yeah. So this is just a plain Katakoda Ubuntu playground. So I'm not going through their Kubernetes one because that is 1.18, and we actually need 1.19 to some sort of practice. And there is a small gist that I have prepared. So actually, you can use any of the cluster for preparation, and actually Walid will be talking some of the other resources for practicing, for the practice environment as well. So hold on till that. But for this one, there is a simple K3s 1.19 cluster that is getting installed onto the Ubuntu playground. So it'll download and it'll start the K3s process. It usually takes a few seconds. That's it. In the meanwhile, we'll do the pod creation. So the first one will be the pod creation, and yes, our environment is up and running. kubectl get nodes. So you can see I have Kubernetes v1.193, which is the latest one. Now, what happens is when in the exam, so you are asked sometimes to create a pod and with all the scenario that is explained. So the very quick way would be to have. I will remove actually this and just show you the output. So you can run. So kubectl run uh, prior to 1.18, it used to create a deployment, but and you had the generators and everything. But since Kubernetes 1.18, you have kubectl run in Nginx or whatever you name it, and you run it, so it will just create a pod for you and not a deployment. So keep that thing in mind. So you do kubectl run, the name, the image. Now the dry run client is very important, and you can actually use aliases. So you can use alias kubectl as k, and hyphen dry run is equal to client as maybe DC or whatever you are comfortable with, so that you are super fast in your typing. And when you do a -o YAML and dry run client, it will not go ahead and apply. It will actually give you the YAML file. So basically, you don't have to go to Kubernetes cheat sheet or Kubernetes documentation, though you can, and you can take from there. But it is very handy, and you can just run it, and no need to remember it as well. Just do a kubectl run -help. So you will get the command here itself. So no need to remember everything as well. So you'll actually get the command here itself. So, and there are a lot of options that you can add so that all the things get appended to your YAML file, and you can get a big YAML file as per your question. Next one that I have is the deployment. So there was a big buzz, like how do we create a deployment now? Actually in 1.18, it got a big in the market, like the kubectl run is not creating deployment, but for the very easy things we have to go to the docs, and it's not doing that. Though there was a clear deployment, but some of the flags were not there in 1.19, which actually came in 1.18, which came in 1.19. So like you can see, kubectl create would be the command to create the deployment now. So kubectl create deploy test. Now you can give -f image. You can give the replicas as mentioned in the question. You can give the port of the container. You can give the namespace, and then again the same thing, dry run YAML. So this will give you a deployment, create all the metadata for you with the namespace, create the replicas for you, and in the spec section it will have the container for you. So like Walid was saying that you have a multi-container pod, so just take this YAML, edit it, add the another pod container that they have mentioned in the question, and you're good to go. So no need to think like, how will I create? I have to search on the documentation, and I'm not able to directly use the kubectl commands. So they are very handy, and believe me, you don't need to learn even the I mean, you have to practice very hard, but you don't need to learn, memorize all these. So when you do kubectl create, deploy hyphen help, so everything is, so this is not something which is I'm going out. Kubectl will be available over there, and you can see the commands, the options, everything is already mentioned. So you don't have to actually do anything. Just do kubectl create deploy hyphen help, create the dummy deployment. So you have the base structure of the YAML. If there's multi-container, add the container, then again apply it. Now some of the thing is like in the pod spec, there is not everything that you can edit. So if you want to edit it, just you can save it, edit, save it. It's not save. I mean, it's not apply, but it'll save it in the temporary folder. You delete that and apply the new one. So that way you can do with the pod if you want to edit some of the field which is not editable. And so that's how you do the deployment. So we can actually create these deployments because I think, yeah, I have one of the, based on this, I have one of the things which is there. So I'll just quickly create those deployments and remove the dry run. If I remove this, so the pod is created, and if I remove it from the deployment, I'll remove it from the deployment as well.
So which namespace this will be created on?
This will be in the test, and it might give error because test is not there.
Okay, so be careful during the exam that most of the exam questions are scoped to a namespace and scoped to a context. So always in the exam, make sure they give you how to change your context. So always make sure that you run the context, and when you run a command like the dry run or whatever, make sure that basically you have the namespace tied onto it.
That's a super important point that Walid has just pointed. Every question, so listen to very carefully, because this sometimes you can miss, but you should not ever. So every question there will be a context given, like this particular question belongs to this particular context. So, and they already have like the way to switch the context. So make sure before running anything, you just switch the context. Just remember it as a default standard. You go there, click on any question, just change the context, and then start even reading it. So then only you start reading the question once you switch the context, because that actually is the best practice.
Okay. I lost the connection for a second.
Sure. Now is it?
The other thing about namespaces in the exam, the 3 exams will all of them have, and one of the objectives is to create a network policy. So network policy is like a shared task among the 3 exams, the CKA, CKS, and CKAD. So how do you create a namespace? You create a namespace using kubectl create, and you can pass a namespace. So usually for network policies, you need a namespace. So don't forget, if you are doing a network policy, include a namespace. Sorry, if you are answering a question related.
Yeah, I think Walid, your net is a bit distorted as of now, or I don't know whether it's mine. Can anyone tell me whether I am audible?
Okay, my connection is playing up.
Yeah, you are back.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. So very rightly said. So you can create just a namespace using create and network policies, whatever Walid has mentioned. Your message was through Walid, by the way. So after that only you were cut off.
Okay.
So kubectl create service, again create command to create a service. You can specify whether it's a cluster IP, node port, whatever, and then give the name. And you in the TCP you give the port, whatever the port you have given. And when again the dry run OYAML remains the same, because that's what actually you'll be needing. 90% of the time you have to make some little change in the YAML. So that's why I'm focusing on dry run client and hyphen OYAML. So like this, you can see here, you have the spec, you have everything, and the type also is given, the node port, and it's very handy, right? You are able to create a service easily using the kubectl create command. Now, one thing that I noticed, which was not previously, I don't know whether it was in 1.18 or where. So you can actually expose a service on top of a service. So you can expose this service itself on a new target, like a new name, a new port, and with a new name. So I recently came across this. I didn't use it before. So kubectl expose service, the previous service, and the port and the target port on the service port and the target port, and then the name, and again the type node port. Actually, the Nginx was not found because I didn't create the previous one. Let me just change
Is
its
it in a
name.
different namespace?
No, the namespace is same. I actually didn't
Okay.
create Nginx, so I created a
Ah,
different service. So you can see now it is creating a namespace on top of the service. Sorry, it is creating a service on top of a service that I just created. So I created the service first directly using the create command, and now I'm exposing that service additionally. So now if I do kubectl get svc, you can see that we have both the services. So it's, I mean, this was something new, might be useful sometimes, and get
node board.
endpoints and will be the endpoints for that. Right now, there's no pod with that particular label that might have created the service. So, and also if you want to view any of the object in all namespaces, so this hyphen a small symbol is small, sorry, hyphen capital A is the flag that you have to provide. So you will be getting all the services in all namespace. You can see their default is there, kube system is there. So all namespace, and similarly for all the other Kubernetes objects. So that also is one of the thing.
For the CKS exam, what do you think about node board? Because basically, if you are exposing a node board, you are exposing it at the node level in all nodes. So what do you
Yeah,
think?
we should. I think that there will definitely be a question regarding this where you have to I have not given, but I'm sure, because node port and restricting the service to having the node port, I mean creation of the service, or there might be something like the cluster is exposed, how you see that, then you might have to change the service type, something like that.
To cluster IP probably, because there is nothing,
Yes.
not many options here.
The next one is the quick one. How to create a secret. So secrets in Kubernetes are not new. So you can have just, again, simple kubectl command to create secret, and in generic, you can have different sort of secrets, but this one is the generic one, is the most commonly used. Then is the name, and from literal you can create from a file as well. So this will be the name, key, and the value. Key and the value. That's how it is. The secret gets created. If so, just a small test as well. So this is taken from the documentation itself. I'm just, sorry, trying to use that particular secret from an environment variable. You can actually mount it as a volume, use that. All those things can be used, but I have taken it from the environment variable. Oops, I have not copied properly, sorry. Let me copy it properly from here. Yes.
Sam, can you show from the documentation where to find secret?
Yes, I have already opened that.
Yes.
So again, if you don't know anything and you don't know like how to mount it, you just in the doc section itself, you can see the secrets, and then if you come down, scroll, it will be like all those things, and they have actually given the usage of a secret inside a pod in all the forms. Like you can see here, it is secret values from the volumes, then you have secret from the environment variables, and this is what exact I have used, secret from the environment variable. Just copy it, paste it. This is absolutely valid and absolutely legal way of doing it in the exam as well.
Yes.
So if
So
I do this,
there was a
it
question regarding the exam order. So before, it used to matter when the CKA was 3 hours and the CKAD was 2 hours. It was better to do the CKAD first and then the CKA next, because there is an overlap. Now that they are the same, I think it's easier to do the CKA than the CKAD. Why? Because basically the CKA types of questions are direct tasks. Do this and this with this and that, like create a bot with that namespace and with that container and with this tag. Very clear instructions. While the CKAD are use cases scenarios. Basically, a developer who wants to create, I don't know what, it's like a paragraph. So the questions in the CKA are shorter than the questions in the CKAD. So I think the order, I would say CKA because it's really core, and then the CKAD, and then the CKS. CKS is like in depth of the CKA.
So CKS is the master cert.
I believe so. It's the core.
So I have a question for you now. What do you think? So you are saying like we do CKA first, okay? Because okay, all of them are maybe 2 hours now, and previously it was more number of questions, and people used to find it very hard to complete in the actual time given
Yes.
with respect to the number of questions. So they have reshuffled the some of the sections and reshuffled some of the percentages. So how you think like troubleshooting is 30%? So what are your takes on that in the CKA?
In the CKA, troubleshooting is very, very important. In every exam, troubleshooting is very important because you will do mistakes and you need to delete. And as you said, time is critical. Part of the exam is time management. All of the exams, you require to have good time management. And that's why you said the aliases. Like you don't need to do many aliases. Just 2 aliases are good enough. The K kube control equal K and the dry run, for example, because you will be doing lots. There are some people who do an alias for key delete because it takes 30 seconds because of the grace period. But for the delete, if I made a mistake, I just control C because it's a sync function. So it will happen in the background. So I don't need to wait for it. But going back to the objectives, my strategy is to focus on the one with the highest score. So if I'm studying for the CKA, the highest score is troubleshooting. So while I'm studying, I try to make issues like, what if I kill the network plugin, the CNI? What happens? Can I see what happens in terms of node status, in terms of pod status? What if I break the application inside the pod so I can see a crash loop? Basically, ask yourself, what if, and do it, and check what happens. So, for example, if node is not ready, what could be the cause? It could be the kube.
I think we again have some network issues. But yeah, troubleshooting section is very important. And I rightly agree. That's very, very good strategy to learn from the section where the percentage is higher. So we should definitely focus on that particular section more while we are preparing. And for all three, like Walid said, you can have CKA, CKAD, any of them as first because they both are 2 hours each, and it doesn't really matter. But preferable sequence now, if you see from the curriculum as well, it for me as well, it looks like CKA I would have done first if I would have not done before both these. So I would have done CKA first, then CKAD, and obviously CKS I can only do if I complete CKA. So I would do that as the last one.
Yes. The second thing, as Sayam said in the beginning, that there were subjects and tasks moved away from the CKA and they moved away to the CKAD and CKS. Like what? Like secrets and config maps. So make sure that you have the different options, how to make a secret and how to make a config map. You can as a volume and as environment variable. And basically, if you update the config map, what do you need to do? Do you need to basically scale your deployment, bring it up again, kill the bots? How can you pick up the new updates? So make sure that you have all the corner case scenarios. By the way, there is no trick questions. It's very straightforward. Do not overthink. But it's good for you also to know these corner cases.
Yes, that is very important. There are no extremely complex questions that you will be overthinking. Like you have to troubleshoot there, and there's something rocket science like. So there are regular concepts. If your base concepts are actually fine, if you know like how things are happening inside the cluster. So probably that should give you enough confidence. Yes, the time you should not spend in any certification actually, or in your regular day-to-day exams also, you should not spend extreme time in solving a particular question where you are absolutely stuck. So just move on, because the passing percentage also is not 100%. So there can be a moment where you might maybe under pressure, or maybe just with the flow, you just, your brain is just frozen and you're not able to think for that particular scenario. So don't spend too much time just thinking about what to do, because if you are reading the question and you have something like I have to do this, some strategies there, go ahead. If you're not able to make a strategy in a minute, then probably move to the next question and again come back to that, because that will help you catch up with the questions in the right time, and you might not miss the easier ones that you actually know, and you will be able to complete. And like I said, the passing percentage of CKA CKAD is actually, they have reduced to 66%. So you can, there can be one or two questions that can be wrong. So there can be scenarios where you are stuck. So please move ahead and don't get stuck onto a question for a long time, because then in the end you might fall short of time.
I second you. So, yeah. S- Basically, if there is a question that and you spend more than 8 minutes, it's better to go to the second question straight away and make a note. There is a note, so make a note about it and come back to it. You will be fresh mind when you come back, and maybe doing other questions will refresh your mind about how to read the question again. Maybe you are stuck in how reading the questions, the tasks, and stuff like that.
Yes. Another thing very cool I want to point out is the kubectl cheat sheet.
Yes.
So this is really cool, and this is accessible in the exam as well. So you can directly open, when you are logging in, directly open the kubectl cheat sheet if you just want to have some of the commands. So it has actually a lot of things: how to create a demo container using the cat command, how to create a secret. So you can actually do a lot of things. You can even view, find resources, and this particular thing. So the sort by, the JSON path. So when you have some sort of example in front of you, then you can make the other actual answer to the question, which is based on JSON path, or sort by, or the selector. So all these things can really help you. So especially this particular section, I would say the JSON
Yeah.
path one, and the sort by one, they can really help you, because there can be questions that do require this thing, and you might not get the exact syntax in your mind. So directly go to the cheat sheet, copy the JSON command and the JSON path command, and try to make out from the items like what all things were there, how you can then articulate it to the right solution.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
this is also recommended by a lot of folks. And when I was preparing as well, like kubectl cheat sheet is really good. And you have like scaling the resources. Yes, you directly might not know like how to scale. You can directly come here, see how you can scale it. The deletion is simple. Then the interaction with the pods. If you have multi-container pod, how you can have the logs of a specific container onto a file. All these things are already given over here. So you don't have to actually think. So just see the question and try to have a glimpse of it already in your mind, like what all things are there in the cheat sheet, so that when you go, you directly have, okay, this particular thing was in the cheat sheet, or something similar was in the cheat sheet. Let me go there, copy it, and come back, paste, modify some bits, and do it.
Yes. And the section you are looking at right now, the cordon, and this is very important in the upgrade and very important in troubleshooting.
Yes.
And the cube Adam is a big thing in CKA now, and most likely is a big thing also on the CKS, because one of the things that is components as part of the upgrade also on the CKS. And when you do an upgrade, you need to cordon, you need to drain.
Yeah, there was some little thing that I prepared as well. So cluster upgrade, yes, you can plan and
For
see what all upgrades are available. Then you have to drain the
example,
nodes. Then you have to
for
apply the
Microy, yes, I
upgrade.
am.
Yeah, I mean, you were breaking, so that's why I paid.
Yes.
So then you have the
So
upgrade, then you install the latest versions of that. So drain and drain cordon is really, drain will actually automatically cordon, but they
yes.
are really important commands.
So when you do a kubeadm upgrade plan, before it you have to install the latest version or the required version. Otherwise, it will not show. The plan basically will not show the version that you want to upgrade to.
Upgrade, yes.
Yes, and usually you need to download both the kubelet and the kubeadm. And one trick, by the way, there is since 1.18 they moved lots of the code outside, and they moved lots of the documentation, the third-party documentation, like Falco, for example, is not, you cannot see it anymore on the documentation since 1.17. The last mention of Falco in the documentation was 1.17. So what do you need to do to find the CNI plugin? If you have a question about the CNI plugin, is kubeadm high availability. In the kubeadm high availability, there is a way to install Weave network. So you have to do all these practices beforehand so that you know exactly where to find the information. So in the exam, you don't spend much time trying to find it.
Yeah, so that like this, you have to search, and there are steps for it to make then whatever the files that you have. And I think there is
If you
network.
search for kubeadm high availability, creating high available cluster on the left side, if you click on it, and I think it's the second point, I still remember it. That's how familiar I am with the documentation.
Yes.
If you go to the second, and if you go a little bit down,
Yeah, apply
you
CNF.
see, so this is the only reference to how to create a CNI. So if you have a troubleshooting issue with the CNI and you need to recreate your CNI, or basically you have a cluster without a CNI, this is one way that you can get your CNI up and running.
Yeah, definitely. So, Walid, what I want is, so since you have this repository is there, so can you share, and can you first thing show like how to traverse the documentation efficiently? Just a few examples.
Okay, let's go to, okay, I'll share.
Yeah, you can share
Okay,
it.
let me share.
And then probably we'll walk through the repositories that are there.
Okay, so inception, we have an inception. Okay, good. Okay, so this is one of the my repos, and thanks every contributor that contributed to this repo. I mean, I'm really grateful to them. By the way, Abdul Noor is quite, he has also a CKS repo, and he's quite active in creating resources. So the tips first. The tips, you have to get familiar with the concept and tasks. In the documentation, the most important part is the concept and tasks. The concept has some information on how to do things like troubleshooting and stuff like this, and extending and the cluster administration. The tasks, you have to do all tasks, basically every task in here: how to manage secrets, how to inject the data into application, how to run application, how to run jobs. TLS, this is basically like on the CKAD, is one of the tasks. You have to really practice them beforehand. So these are the main areas in the documentation that you need to know. And this is the kube control cheat sheet. Sayam told you about it already. And the kube control commands. Everything is kube control or kubectl, whatever the way you want to pronounce it. Now, sometimes, now the good news, we have 1.19 for a year. So we will not have different ABI versions for a long time. But if you need to remember the resource ABI, so these are the two commands that basically gives you the ABI versions, and you grab for the resource, especially if it's a network policy, or let's say, for example, bot security policy. It's still beta. but you are not sure, is it V1 or is it beta? So basically, this is how you can try to find it out. Now, if you watch CM creating a bot and creating a deployment, when he created the bot, he used kube control run, and when he created the deployment, he used kube control create. Everything is almost kube control create. If you want to create a service account, it's kube control create. RBAC, it's role binding. Basically, it's kube control create. Now, this is one way. You don't need to go back to the documentation. The other way, the most important way, try to practice kube control explain recursive. It will give you the specs, and you can dive deep into the specs. Try it. And maybe, Sam, if you can give us an example how to do kube control recursive after this, so that they can see how they can dive in the spec and on the directives, how do they dive down.
Yeah, actually kube control explain is very important. Suppose you don't know what is the exact field name in a particular spec, but you know that there is something that I can do in this particular section, which the name or the key, something you are not familiar. So you can actually kube control explain of that, and it will clearly show you what all objects are available, what all flags you can actually put in there with the exact names. So for just a simple example, like you want to put node port in a service and you just don't know how to put it. So if you do with the spec section, it will clearly show you like what should be the caps of the node port, what should be in the lowercase. So this is just a simple example, but there will be scenarios where the kube control explain will be really helpful without even diving into the docs or jumping onto another tab.
So for the CKA exam, troubleshooting is really quite important. And Ian from Container Solution, he created like a document. Actually, it's a repo that have different troubleshooting scenarios. It's very nice to look at them and see basically what he did. There was a question on chat regarding the game of pods. I haven't really played it, but anything coming from Momshad, I believe it will be awesome. Momshad did a great job in his training courses. So most likely, and in his labs, so most likely it is really, it must be good. Knowing how Momshad works and how he explains things, it must be good. I will try it, but I haven't played it. So these are some of the CKA courses. Now this is the CKA repo, and it's updated for the CKA 2020, so it has the updates since the 1st of September. If I go back and I go to the security specialist, this is the one that I'm working on, and I would say it's enough and adequate to go into the exam. So I contributed input from feedbacks from 3 beta testers and from other CKA partitioners. Like they said in the CKA, it was very long and you cannot navigate easily. So I started using emojis, and I started using like a quick index. So if you want, for example, if you look at the highest score and you want to check the monitoring and logging runtime security, you just come here and basically it takes you straight to the monitoring and logging security. Now in the CKS exam, the difference between CKA and CKAD and CKS exam, it uses external resources. So it's very difficult to get documentation from Kubernetes.io or GitHub.io. So monitoring, logging, and runtime security. The moment I say runtime security, what do you think? I mean, if you are in the community and you hear runtime security, container runtime security, or Kubernetes runtime security, first thing I think it will be Falco. And the second thing, maybe sysdig inspect. So this is really heavy on sysdig inspect and basically Falco. And there isn't much information there on the... So the last release on the documentation that covered Falco and covered the use case was this link in Kubernetes 1.17. Yes, so this is like the old documentation, but it's still valid. How to install Falco is still valid. Most likely it will be installed for you. But how to do the webhook and how to do basically configure the auditing and how to configure the API server. You have 2 directives that you need to configure the API server with. So they are here. And what kind of audit rules and stuff like this. So this is very simple document. It's not deep, but most likely it will be enough for the exam. So try in your study and practice to find something in github./Kubernetes. If you cannot find it in github/Kubernetes or Kubernetes.io, try to find the external resource and learn about the external resource. And if you can contribute to Kubernetes blog, that would be even better. Now, also I used Collapse. So basically, this is one section. There were a Red Hatter. He just did the beta test exam, and he talked about it in a podcast, the K Files. If you go to the K Files podcast, the latest podcast was about certifications. The attack phases. This question for him was vague. Detect all phases of attack regardless where it occurs and how it spread. This is something Microsoft Azure did. They basically adopted something called the meter Kubernetes attack matrix. So all of these, the red flags, is external items, but all of them are doable using Falco. So if I go to this, if I learn Falco and I look, these are the different attack phases: privilege escalation, credential access, discovery, lateral movement. But each one of them, there is a Falco rule that basically tells me at which attack phase I am. So basically, this is the answer to this question or to this objective in the exam. Okay. So as you see, when you study for the CKS, there will be external material and there will be internal material. But if you go back, let's go back. And let's look at the largest. So monitoring, logging, and runtime security, I can tell you for sure this is Falco and sysdig inspect, most likely. And if somebody wants to do a blog or wants to do a video about using both, this would be great, a great resource for this exam. Supply chain security, definitely it will be Trevi, Anchor. I don't know how they say it, Anchor or Anchor, or, but Claire maybe not, because Claire, the way you do scanning with Claire is like a webhook and stuff like this. It's more complicated to do command line scans with Claire than Trevi and Anchor. So most likely, if there is a scanner, it will be Trevi or Anchor. That's my thinking.
This Trevi and Kubebench, they are already installed onto the clusters, right?
They didn't say that, but most, if you have this inside knowledge, if somebody released this knowledge, but Trevi makes sense because it's more comprehensive.
Yeah, I heard it from beta testers that Trevi
Yes.
and Kubebench was there. So, and actually it makes sense because there is a heavy focus on CIS benchmark. So you have to have for the cluster setup section, you should be knowing all the hardening steps of the clusters, and that corresponds to CIS benchmark corresponding to Kubebench.
Exactly. So basically, yes, but Claire also you can do it in CI/CD, but you cannot really run it easily without extra steps from the command line. But Aqua Security Trevi is very easy to run from the command line, and Anchor is very easy to run from the command line from CI/CD and webhooks. And the other thing about Claire, it's version 2, and they are going to release version 4 soon. So it's not, I don't think that you select a tool that is going to go major release right now. Maybe in the next releases, because, Linux Foundation, they have a habit of updating the exam very frequently. So maybe later they will adapt, if they need to adapt Claire or adapt several tools, maybe. Now, like the questions are vague. If you look at the objectives, like implement bot-to-bot encryption by use of MTLS. If you think of MTLS, this is definitely service mesh. But service meshes are third-party tools, and there is nothing on the Kubernetes IO or GitHub about MTLS. So maybe there is STO or Linkerd BART, or maybe it's just basically configuring TLS. Also for the gvisor and the kata container, the references actually are from GitHub. The only reference I can get is from GitHub, but it's a valid reference. Now, if I go back, I just want to see the big gains. How do you think about if you want to prepare for this exam? So monitoring and logging runtime security, if you focus on sysdig, Falco, and sysdig inspect, most likely you will cover this topic. And if you system hardening, which is 15%, which is not bad, how do you do system hardening? The exam is about Kubernetes. It's not about the host. So when it says minimize host OS footprint, don't think Linux, don't think firewall. Basically think how you can do it from the Kubernetes side. To do it from the Kubernetes side, it's basically seccomp, which is the sandboxing technology, and that controls the capabilities. The app armor, basically to concentrate the application. And both of these can be controlled by the bot security policy. And I think bot security policy is a big thing in this exam. Why? Because it controls, as we said, the seccomp. It controls the app armor or SE Linux, but we know that the exam is Linux Ubuntu, so most likely it will be app armor. It controls the volumes. It controls syscontrols. So it controls lots of things related to the host. Like if I want to control a host path or volume, I can control it with bot security policy. So this is how I think about the exam and how basically I try to find the resources. Now, this confused face means that I'm still not 100% sure that these are enough, but I think I did the right thing choosing these links in this time. Now, minimize IAM roles. I'm not going to use AWS. I know that the exam is in AWS cloud, but I don't have access to IAM as an AWS. I have to think about identity management as Kubernetes. So identity management as Kubernetes, I have two things. I have service account and I have users. So most likely it's related to the service account users RBAC. And RBAC is a big thing on the 3 exams. So this is one thing I can focus on the 3 exams, is to master roles, role binding, service account, and how to create users. Especially, I think, on the CKS, most likely you will be creating users. Minimize external access to the network. I don't have a way to configure firewalls. The only firewall I have inside Kubernetes is the network policy. So I created this network policy. I didn't actually test it yet. But what this network policy is saying select all bots and allow egress traffic, allow outgoing traffic to all namespaces. That means all bots talk to all bots, but they don't talk to the outside because I haven't selected IP addresses. So this one protects, this is a network policy. Now you can see that I'm missing a label. Okay, so if I want to do, but the namespace selector is everyone, so this should be fine. This is all basically, so it should be fine. I'm thinking this will work. I need to try it. And that's why the confused face. Any questions? I didn't see the questions.
Yeah, there are a few, and I think you will be covering that. So there are a few on the actual practice simulators. Are there any practice simulators that we can use, or?
Yes. So practice simulators, as Sayam did in the beginning, he used CKAD. The problem with CKAD, most of the practices are 1.18. If you go for courses like Momshad courses, he updated already to 1.19. There are other courses probably which are 1.19. The beauty about Momshad courses, the instructions and the labs are good quality. If you want to do it yourself, let's go back to this. Let's go back to the CKA. If you want to do it yourself, you can use Kind.
Yeah.
If you use Kind, especially for CKAD, you can use Kind. For CKS is a little bit tricky because of the host, the mounting, the volume paths and stuff. But if you go to the Kubernetes Certified Administrator, no, okay, sorry. It's actually in the security I did it. There is a hands-on. There is a hands-on, for example, for Kind. So just, you have to have Docker or a container runtime installed, and then you install Kind. You follow the instruction from the Kind website, and you create a cluster. This is a YAML file of a configuration of a cluster, 1 control plane and 3 workers. Why 1 control plane and 3 workers? If you go to the exam handbook, you see the CKA exam is most of it is 1 master, 2 workers, 1 master, 2 workers. So basically, if you create a cluster with this configuration, you basically have the same configuration as in the exam. So I saw one question, someone asking, how do I upgrade the other control panel node? You don't need to upgrade the other control panel node because there is no other control panel node, unless the question will ask, maybe change one worker to another control panel. But in this case, like 2 workers, it will not work because for etcd, you have at least 3 control plane nodes. So reading the handbook and reading the FAQ, you can figure out things like Calico. So Calico can do deny rules in network policy.
Yes.
Flannel, there is no network policy, so you cannot apply network policies in Flannel. So from the exam topology, from the exam handbook, you can detect, you can actually induce and basically figure out how the exam will look like. Like, for example, this one most likely is the troubleshooting one, missing worker node. Okay, so if I have missing worker node, what should I do? Why is it missing? Is it because it's in no ready state? Or is it because it's not joined to the network? Or it was cordoned and nobody, it was drained and cordoned and nobody basically joined it again? Yes. So you think about these cases and think about how to solve them. Yeah. Any other questions? So I use kind mostly, and if you know Duffy, he created also a video for the CKA. Actually, I put it in the. Duffy has a very nice series called Grokking Kubernetes. So, and all these videos are here. So Duffy Cooley, he used to be VMware, now he was working for Apple, and he used to do the TGIK very frequently. So he uses kind. I learned kind from Duffy, really. And he created a video for the CKA, how to update, how to install kubeadm, how to join the nodes, how to do the upgrade, and how to backup and restore etcd. And he has his notes here also. Yeah, and the killer SH discount in the beginning, basically, that's the killer SH discount. Killer SH is very nice. I want to show you killer SH. Okay, let's say yes. So this is how the exam will look like, the exam environment. You will have a question somewhere here. There will be like what you need to do, and there will be a terminal here. So you have to get used to Katacoda. You have to get used to the terminal on a web screen, on a web interface, on a Chrome. It will take some time to bring the cluster up.
And by the way, there's 20% off on the killer.sh if you buy any of the courses. So Walid Shari is the code that you can use for 20% discount on the simulator.
So CKA, there is lots of resources online, training. I like Momshad training. Linux Academy is also well recommended. RxM they are doing a great job. And I believe they have some Katacoda labs also. Pluralsight, they have a CKA course. The point about killer SH simulation, it's actually more difficult than the course, but it makes you think how the cluster is configured, how things are connected to each other. So most likely, if you pass the killer.sh course, you will pass the exam. It helps you probe deeper than just the surface. Okay. What else? Okay. Let's see. What's that? And for practice, if you want to practice, there is this GitHub for CKAD. To be honest, this is the best repo for CKAD exercises. He took from several repos, including Twazor, Blockchain Zero, Abdelnour, Anadang. So if you want to practice, these are practices for the CKAD. The last update was 7 days ago, 5 days ago. He updated the multi-container. Let's check. And that's how the exam will look like in the, that's how the question will look like in the exam. So for the CKAD, it's usually, this is not really a CKAD question. This is small. So this is the question, and then this is the answer. So it's really nice how did he created his repo. And that's where I got the collapse from. The collapse idea. I didn't know that you can do collapse in GitHub Markdown. Other resources on Medium. Kim Kim Camp is the co-founder of, or the founder of Killer.sh. He has like series, for examples, like challenge questions every now and then. So if you follow him, you will get lots of challenge questions, and if you do them, you should be ready for the exam. Okay. And for if you are thinking about the CKS, the security, another
OPA.
thing that is important is the rego, the policies, OBA. So Styra, the company behind OBA, the Open Policy Agent, has a free course on Styra Academy. So this should cover your Open Policy Agent requirements. Also, if I look in the documentation, there is only one reference for Rego in the references. So I imagine that the questions regarding Rego will not be very extensive, will be from the one that is already in Kubernetes.io.
So how much you think the OPA knowledge would be required? I mean, should we go to the course, or is there any extensive things we should do?
If you look at what's happening with the bot security policy and OBA, there are changes. There are people doing the bot security policy through Open Policy Agent. Yeah. So what's the direction of bot security policy? Is it going to be there, or everybody is going to a different way of doing policies like Kevinaro and OBA? So I really don't know, but I think you have to know at least what is the Rego language, and you really need to know how to customize it a little bit. The course is like 6 hours, so and you will not have access to the Rego playground in the exam. So let's see. So I think just familiarity with how Rego works, because it's a little bit awkward sometimes. There is no there is no exceptions. There is no errors. It's always, so sometimes you think it's true, but it's not true. It's the false way. It's the logic is a little bit different, that you have to be exposed to it. So I think just getting exposed to Rego should be fine. I like the KubeCon videos, and the course is really straightforward, and it's very useful at work also. So if somebody wants to start writing policies and stuff like this, and OBA is not specific to Kubernetes. You can use it with the service meshes. You can use it with the Ceph, the object storage. You can use it with SSH. You can use it almost everywhere nowadays. Network policies is a big thing, I believe. The CSI benchmark. So you said the Kubebench is there, correct?
Yes, I feel so. Can you show the two channels on the Slack? That would be very useful.
Yes. So in Slack, there is, in the Kubernetes Slack, there is the CKA exam prep, CKAD exam prep, and CKS exam prep. And you can see the CKS is still a few people, 215. There is also, if you go to the Kubernetes, so Kubernetes is another, they are heavy on certifications and sharing information and stuff like this. So basically, this is Arash, and he has actually simulator. If you want to try Arash, basically, if you want to try simulator,
and they also have a repository. They also have a collection of resources inside a document created, which is very extensive. So that also would be helpful for the preparation.
And in his GitHub repo, he has a simulator. He created a simulator for the exam if somebody wants to try it. I really haven't tried it, but most likely it should be fine.
Yeah, do join those Slack channels because there is a lot of help. There is a Telegram channel also of LearnKates, and that is also very, very active. And you can ask actually the regular Kubernetes questions as well, and your certification perspective as well. So I mean, folks from LearnKates as well, they are very helpful. And you all know, right? On Twitter, whatever threads they create on certain benchmarks that they create, certain comparisons that they create are always awesome. So they have this Telegram channel. Make sure you join that as well. It's very good, very healthy conversations go on Kubernetes over there, and you can
Yes.
find me and one there as well.
And they have actually very extensive documentation, one blog regarding the RBAC, how to use policies and RBAC, which is really good.
Yes. So I think I mean, if we can cover hours and hours on talking about certifications and going through each of the topics, but we have covered enough so that you can at least get started and start learning the courses, start going. You have some kind of path, some kind of track that you can follow. uh, Free ones, paid ones. Walid, I showed you all the things. I showed you a few of the things. Documentation is there. People are there to help on different Slack channels. So help is available everywhere. Resources are available everywhere. Now it's you who have to go there and just start your preparation, start your journey. Because if you are planning to take the security, if you are in security domain and the security certification did excite you, so before doing that, you have to do CK. So just start focusing on that, complete it, and then move on to CKS. And else, I would prefer do all the certifications. They are really good in terms of learning. So as you can see that the Walid's repository itself is so huge. The only reason is the massive amount of learning that you get while your preparation journey will be very helpful for you in understanding the actual concepts of Kubernetes. Plus, your career wise, when you are actually working in an industry, in your job, day-to-day work, there also it will be very helpful, and you will be able to relate and click some of the portions that you prepared, and then you will be able to very easily troubleshoot and create HA clusters. All those things will be very handy. So the journey comes, I mean, you have to learn if you are in job, so make sure you learn it the proper way.
Yes. And coming back to the sandbox and how to prepare for the exam, for the CKS, there was the site Secure Kubernetes, which is basically a simulator. It's based on Google Kubernetes Engine, JKE. So for now, I think it's 118, but the security concept should be the same. Kube control will be a little bit different, so be aware of that, but the security concept should be the same. There is simulator. I haven't tried that one. That one is from Andy Martin. And there is also Madhu Kubernetes Goat. So for example, like WebGoat. So this is like a vulnerable application, a vulnerable Kubernetes environment, and there are steps to do it. And it's available in Katacoda, by the way, so you don't need to install it in your machine. It's already available in Katacoda.
Awesome.
So these are some of the resources. And of course, you have to follow like SysDig, Aqua Security, StackRock's blogs. There's lots of wealthy and rich information there when it comes to security.
Yes, recently they released Cube Linter a couple
Yes,
of days.
I like it. Yeah,
I wrote a blog today, so it's live, I think.
Okay, good.
So it's good. Cube Linter is also good. People were asking for like how to validate. So it also validates your YAML files, help chart repositories, and tell you what all things, and they tell you the remediation steps, which are actually good. What you can do for particular things.
Yes.
So
I was thinking Cube Linter was just released a couple of days ago, but I was thinking it satisfies this one when they say Kubernetes resources and Docker files, but I'm not sure really.
Static analysis of user workloads. Yes, static analysis of application wise, all the YAML files, I think Cube Linter would do the job. Docker files, I don't think so. It is much required in the CKS exam. So I think this is a great repository. So all those who are watching, we'll be giving the links. Actually, you can just go to github.com/Walid Shari, and he has pinned both the repositories for the CKS and CKAD. Just go there. I'll put all the links in the description, by the way. So no need to worry that everything will be lost. So all the links will be in the description. But really focus on this repository, and if you find any resource, create a pull request, because that can help other people as well. So you find any good resource regarding security, and you see it's a very good match with the certification objectives, do raise a pull request, and he can merge, or the maintainers can merge the, so that it's helpful for the complete package of the CKS certification, so that you have a complete learning path. With that, I hope everybody has filled the form, what the giveaway. So there is a giveaway course, that's an introductory, a complete introductory bundle with 3 courses from Learn Kates today. So I will be just seeing, yes, I have 44 responses, which is amazing. So I'm just creating a spreadsheet out of that. Yes, I have the spreadsheet, and today one lucky winner will be getting the complete not the CKA or CKD bundle, but it's just an introductory bundle that is there. So you will be getting that. So let me just, yes. So Walid, what I want you to do is, since I have the spreadsheet, you just tell me any number ranging from 1 to, how many are there? 44, 45. Yeah, 1 to 45, any number you want. So just tell me, and that 21.
Yeah, it's not a prime number, but that's fine.
21. So it's Selva Kumar. Selva Kumar.
Congratulations, Selva.
Whether you are in chat, if you are, please say hi, and congratulations, Selva, you have given your email ID. I'll contact you, and you will be getting a free course bundle. And thank you for watching the stream, everyone. Walid, any ending thoughts?
Thanks for everybody, and thanks for the contributors. Thank you, Sayam, and thanks for the great efforts and contributions you are doing every week. I mean, every day, actually.
Trying to do as much as I can. So, and thank you for joining the stream. It was great to have you and see all the resources. So that's absolute brilliant collection of resources over there. I would definitely recommend, and yes, we'll be putting all those in the description. So
the pleasure is mine.
Thank you all for joining, and hope you have a great weekend. And Selva, I will contact you for the winning swag. And that's it from our side. Have a happy weekend, and start your Kubernetes journey. Do tag Walid and me, and tell us how you went on your journeys and how you get certified. And make sure you subscribe the channel. That is very important. That keeps me going on. Thank you all. See you next time.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.